my Falcons. Today is Monday, November 11th.
Today we have a special Veterans Day edition of the Falcon 5.
Veterans Day, which was once known as Armistice Day, was originally set as a U.S. legal holiday to honor the end of World War I.
In 1938, Armistice Day was established to remember the armistice or agreement that had been signed back on November 11, 1918, marking the end of World War I. President Woodrow Wilson proclaimed the first Armistice Day in 1919, emphasizing peace and honoring those who served in the Great War.
In 1938, Armistice Day was declared a federal holiday, which was a focus on World War I veterans. In this legislative, the date of November 11th was declared to cause of world peace and hereafter celebrated and known as Armistice Day.
In 1954, after the U.S. had gone through the devastation of the World War II and the Korean War, the scope of the holiday broadened. At the urging of Veterans Service Organizations, the 83rd U.S. Congress amended the Act of 1938 by replacing the word armistice with veterans.
Finally, on September 20th, 1975, President Gerald R. Ford signed a law that returned the annual observance of Veterans Day to November 11th, beginning in 1978. This preserved the day historically significant.
The Department of Defense is the largest employer in the U.S. There are more than 1.4 million active duty personnel, 1.1 million National Guard and Reserve personnel, and 700,000 civilians working in the DoD.
The DoD owns nearly 30 million acres of land worldwide. In the U.S., it is the single largest consumer of energy.
Only 28% of Americans ages 17 through 23 are eligible for military service. Nearly 1.4 million Americans, or 0.4% of the U.S. population, are active military personnel.
The United States military currently has 6 branches.
The Army is the largest and the oldest branch. The Army is responsible for ground operations.
The Marine Corps, as part of the Department of the Navy, is responsible for amphibious and marine operations.
The Navy is responsible for marine operations, including protecting waterways and providing runways for aircrafts.
The Air Force, responsible for air operations, has the ability to deliver forces anywhere in the world quickly.
The Space Force, responsible for space operations, was created in
The
2019.
Coast Guard is responsible for marine operations, law enforcement, and environmental protection. Here at Fall Creek Junior High, we have many students and staff members who have been in the military or have a related active, inactive, and retired military personnel.
To honor those who have served our country, we will be talking about several Fall Creek students and staff to hear about the military has impacted their lives.
I'm Layla Mack, and I'm here with Addison Bill. Addison, which one of your parents served in the military?
My dad.
Your dad? For how long?
7 years.
It's a long time. What is the most difficult thing about having a parent in the military?
Probably having after activity sports and having my mom trying to take me and my brother to what sports we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you enjoy having a parent in the military?
It's okay.
It's okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm Charlotte Creamer from the 8th grade, and I'm here with
Natalie Schick from the 7th grade.
Natalie. Which different places have you lived in?
I've lived in South Carolina, Virginia, Indiana, and Texas.
And which branch of the military?
My dad is in the Army.
And where have your parents have been deployed or fought?
Iraq, Kuwait, and Afghanistan.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Gray Maurer from 8th grade, and that's Jameson Holtgren from 8th grade. To start us off today, how many different places have you lived at?
I've lived in 2 places. I was born in Hawaii, and now I live in Indiana.
Which one of your parents served in the military?
My dad served in the military.
What has been one thing that you found difficult while having parents in the military?
One thing that's difficult is when my dad is gone. Once a month he has to go to Detroit for military drill, and then once a year he has to go to a different country.
Okay. Where have your parents been deployed or fought?
My dad has been deployed to Europe, to the Middle East, and to Asia.
While in the military, what did your parents do?
My dad is a commander, and he's been the captain of several boats, and he's been on a riverine squadron in Iraq.
All right, thank you for sharing. I'm thankful that you have spent your time to interview with us, and I thank you for your time.
Of course.
Today we're sitting down with one of our amazing instructional assistants, Mr. Harris, who is also a military veteran. Hello, Mr. Harris. Thank you for taking time to talk with us.
Thanks for having me.
Why did you enlist?
I got out of high school and I did not want to sit for 4 more years in college. And I wanted adventure and excitement. I wanted to travel, do dangerous things, have fun, and I wanted to get paid for it. So a lot of my family was military. So kind of they guided me in the idea of 4 years in the military instead of 4 years of college.
Which branch of the military were you in?
I was in the Army, stationed in Fort Lewis, Washington, Washington State.
What kinds of things did you do that the branch did? Like, what did you do?
Okay, when you join the military, you take a kind of like an interest test, and they give you an academic test called an ASVAB. And I wanted to do something called Ranger. So in the Army, they've got a group called the Rangers. When you take your test and when you apply to the military, there's about 6,000 jobs in the Marine Corps, the Air Force, the Army. And so the Rangers were a job. You had to succeed in order to get into your job. And that's true in anything you do in the military. If you want to be a chef, if you want to do IT, if you want to be a ranger, once you're there, you have to pass tests, you have to go to school, kind of like civilian life.
Nice. What was life like for someone in the military?
I deployed. My friends, Miss Carlin, the science teacher, you go places. So as soon as I got to Fort Lewis, Washington, you get sent places. We went to different parts of the world, different parts of the United States. We mostly was training for what my time of duty was. You had a job to do. They give you a career. I had a job in the Rangers. I was infantry. And you had to go to schools on that. You had to pass those schools. My career was very physical, if that's a good word. My career was very demanding. So you had to do your tour of duty and kind of like succeed at it. I saw Mrs. Harris 3 months of the first year. So like we're gone all the time.
Yeah.
And the kids who did Afghanistan and Iraq, they were gone more. So it's kind of a challenge.
Yeah, that seems challenging. So did you have to move often? Much?
No, I did the going and I stayed in Fort Lewis. If you stay in the military and do a career out of it, you move. I talked to Mrs. Chris. Mrs. Chris's family moved around the country a lot.
Yeah. A
lot of people who stay in the service go from, it's called a duty station, place to place to place. I didn't do that. I did short little trips overseas.
Yeah.
But no, I stayed in Fort Lewis for my whole tour. Well, stationed would be okay. I went to a bunch of places in the Pacific. I went to a bunch of places in Central and South America. I went to a bunch of places in the United States. My battalion, my group that I was with, went to Europe, went to the Middle East, went to everything. The war on terror had not happened. 9/11 had not happened. So we were used in a different capacity than the modern military was. So no, I traveled, but basically my tour was all still in Washington State.
Did you really have a favorite place, almost, if you ever really moved a lot?
I don't know. They were all pretty cool.
Yeah.
The deal with the military is that you don't really look at a place as a vacation. So when I went to places, it was incredibly hard and dirty and scary and loud and dangerous, and I can't really sugarcoat it. It was hard work, and you're with very close friends that are all doing the same thing. So no, Central America was beautiful. The Pacific Ocean, I went a lot to the Pacific Ocean. It was beautiful. Since we're on the West Coast, you go in those directions. So no, there was no special place. I will tell you though that you pick where you want to be stationed. So if you join the military, you get to pick your duty station, where they need you and what you want to do. I picked the Pacific Northwest because I have family out west and grew up out west.
Yeah.
So it was kind of nice to be in Washington State so I could get to Montana or I could get to California and see family.
That's nice. What was it like to transition from being in the military to like regular civilian life?
For me, it wasn't that hard. The men and women who did Afghanistan and Iraq, I imagine it was tough. My tour of duty was not years and years of war. So coming back to civilian life for me was not that hard. The military, depending on what you do, changes you. I came back and I finished college, and the military paid for college.
Yeah.
And college was a snap, it was a breeze. Life was easy. It was challenges that were far easier than what we did. Those in the building, Mr. Belowski's a veteran, Adam, our resource officer, is a veteran. What they did was way harder. So I came back without the stress of what they had to go through. So it was not that hard.
Nice. What does Veterans Day mean to you?
Oh, Veterans Day and Memorial Day, those are the 2 days that recognize it's a commitment. If there are 100 people in a room, 5 of them are veterans, which is not a lot. It's all volunteer. When you're in the mall or you're in the world or you're outside and you see a license plate that's got a service branch on it, there's just not a lot of veterans out there. It's a difficult commitment. You don't see your family, you don't see holidays, you're in some unusual, weird, scary place. It's hard to communicate with your family. It's hard to hear about what's going on in the world. So being a veteran and Memorial Day, the sacrifice of veterans, means that we gave a little bit more. You know, I don't think that's seen as a definition in everybody's world, that it is a lot of time, difficult, a lot of time away from family, and then you come back and you have to readjust to life. Some people stay in for 20 years. Some people, I stayed in for 4. I did my 4 years and then got out and went to college. But it's those are days that recognize how hard it is.
Yeah. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me today, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. It was fun.
We'd like to thank all those that took the time to talk to us about what Veterans Day means to them.
We'd also like to thank all the members of the military for their service to the country.
Thanks for tuning in today, Falcons. This Veterans Day, take the time to think about and thank those people who have served their country. Have a great day.